Exclamation point. The most excellent 80s movies podcast and our exploration of Star Trek for the Voyage Home. Are you all in the right place? Well, we're so happy to have you. Do we have any listeners out there, listeners of the podcast, or is everybody new to the podcast? Listener, yay.
We got one.
Excellent. Well, you can certainly find our podcast wherever the finest podcasts are stored and downloaded. Again, we are the most excellent 80s movies podcast. And at the end, we are going to have some trivia and some little prize bags. So stick around to the end, and you could walk away with some cool stickers from all of our various projects of myself and my co-host and our guest, as well as some free tickets to the Neighborhood Comedy Theater and some other fun and exciting little tidbits. So what do you think, you guys? Are you ready to get started?
Yeah, I'm excited.
Are we ready to step into the final frontier?
We are ready to wade into the final frontier.
I feel like more like voyaging home.
Yeah?
Should we
Yeah.
voyage home?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, well, let's do it. Hello and welcome to the most excellent 80s movies podcast. It's the podcast where a filmmaker, a comedian, and their fabulous podcaster, writer, doer of many things, guests, we search for the perfect way to beam up our love of the 80s movies we think we love, or might have even missed, with these our modern grown-up eyes to decide how well they've held up. My name is Krissy Lenz. I am the director of the Neighborhood Comedy Theater here in downtown Mesa, Arizona. And with me as always...
My name is Nathan Blackwell. I'm a local filmmaker.
He's the Arizona Filmmaker of the Year, friends. He's too humble to say that part, so I have to say it every time. And with us today is somebody who you can see here at Phoenix Fan Fusion, just kind of all over the place. Already done one super amazing panel this morning. The Joker, Laughter Turns to Screams. Who was at that one? Yeah, excellent. And we can see you at a bunch of other panels throughout the weekend. But mostly people can hear you. And what can they hear from you? Kyle, introduce yourself, please, and tell us a little bit about all the amazing things that you do.
Sure. My name is Kyle Olson. I am predominantly a podcaster. I do a podcast with Krissy called The Cool Time Dice Hour, which is an actual play role-playing game recorded live at the Neighborhood Comedy Theater. We've done about, a dozen of them or more.
I think so.
We're on hiatus now. We're starting our second season, so you can come out and see that. It is super fun. It is heavy on fun and light on rules. So if you don't know D&D, you don't have to know anything. Most of the players don't know anything about it, so we try and keep it. We're trying to take some of that improv comedy thing along with role playing to make something fun and accessible and a lot of very silly.
Very silly.
Very silly. We've
silly.
been I've had you be 3 animals in a human suit trying to buy some sushi.
Yep.
That was a fun one. We've had old people trying to solve mysteries
And murders.
Yes. That's right.
We've done some straight up D&D
Yep.
at the Renaissance Festival. Is where it took place. But this Saturday, which is tomorrow at 1:30 in North 131 ABC, we're doing Cool Time Dice Hours. You can come hear us and see us there.
Yeah.
But what else do you do that they should hear?
I have an audio drama podcast called the Swashbuckling Ladies Debate Society. I'm wearing the merch of it right now. I also have some stickers of that if you're fans of that and you want to come up, or even if you just like cool stickers. And there might be some prizes in the bag that you might like too. So that is
yeah. Okay, excellent. So we are here today to talk about Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, a movie selection from 1986, about which Google says, living in exile on the planet Vulcan, the ragtag former crew of the USS Enterprise steal a starship after receiving a planetary distress call from Earth. A space probe has entered into orbit around Earth, disabled global power and the planet, and evaporated the oceans. That's kind of what happened in Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home.
The Wrath of Whales.
The Wrath of Whales. It really is the Wrath of Whales. The whales are going to destroy our planet in minutes, And they murder literally dozens of people across the vastness of space.
It's the probe is not piloted by whales.
You don't think
By
that probe
space
is
whales?
piloted? Of course
We
it's
don't know
piloted
who
by
is piloting the
whales.
probe. We never find out.
Okay, of course it's piloted by
Your
whales.
anti-whale agenda is not going to get any airtime again
God.
for another
Well-
podcast episode.
You're
Well-
well-established anti-whale.
By whales, they should have just dropped them onto the earth.
Well,
Yeah.
they wanted to see
Just-
if they had any bugs there first. Yeah. Who thinks it's whales in the probe? Anyone? Okay.
All right.
At least less than half a dozen people are with me on this.
Less than half
At
a
least
dozen
Less
people.
than half a
It's
dozen.
3 people, right?
It was 4.
Okay.
It was 4.
That is
Slightly
less
less than half a dozen.
She
But
got you by the math.
Yeah, this is
What?
a different kind of Star Trek movie
well, I
in
wanted
a
to
good
ask
way.
you, like, what is your Star Trek lore? Because, like, who's here because you love Star Trek and you love So there's
Okay.
a lot of wonderful Trek fans
Oh,
here.
that's weird. There's Star Trek fans in
It's
this film.
weird. It's so weird.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm a fan of Star Trek, but I'm by no
Yeah.
means an encyclopedic super fan, as I'm sure some of our friends here are today. How do you feel about Star Trek, specifically like the Kirk
Right.
Spock?
So I didn't grow up on the Kirk Spock TV show. It was the movies and then Star Trek: The Next Generation. That was kind of like everyone has their own like gateway. And for me, it was the movies. Like I kind of jumped in at the Wrath of Khan at a very young age, and then like the movies were the ones that I was excited with. But then it was Star Trek: The Next Generation that was really kind of like my Star Trek, you know. So I only really knew. You know, it's like people made fun of them for being, you know, senior citizens on adventures, but that's the Star Trek that I knew.
Yeah, I'm all for senior citizens on adventures.
Yeah.
on exactly this kind of adventure.
Yeah,
Travel
and
to
then
the
they're
past.
even older in like the Picard series finale.
Yeah.
But that's fine. That's
Are
okay.
you a big Star Trek guy, Kyle Olson?
My story is almost identical to Nathan's because it's the same thing. Like Star Trek, the 60 series was on in syndication, I guess, by the time that we were growing up, and so it was on. You had to be aware by the time the 80s rolled around. Like everyone knew Kirk and Spock just because it was part of the culture. But yeah, the same thing. I never really watched any of the episodes much, even though I sort of do it around. And it was Star Trek 2 that I went to see in movie theaters, and after that it was like, oh, this is what Star Trek is. All right, cool. And it turns out that movie is not like any other Star Trek movie.
Yeah.
Wrath of Khan is a gateway drug.
Yeah.
It really is.
That's
But
the,
it's also bait and switch too.
Yeah.
It's like
Kinda.
there's not really anything that's like Star Trek 2.
Yeah,
You don't-
well,
you don't get as
Until
much
they stole
open
Star Trek 2 and
chest.
remade it later on.
I
with J.J.
think
Abrams,
I
but
think
we don't
that
need to talk about
the
that.
one of the truths, whether we like it or not, is that there have been many types of Star Treks.
Yes.
And many different things of what Star Trek is.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if
All-
you
and
come
all
into the
consistently
movies,
good.
they're adventure movies.
Yeah.
You know, with maybe the exception of like there's no like real violence in this one. This one is kind of like the upbeat character fun adventure.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. People
But
die off
the
screen.
movies are more or less adventure movies. The original Star Trek is very kind of science fiction,
Yeah.
parables and things like that, which Gene Roddenberry tried to have Next Generation be, and then once he wasn't really in charge of Next Generation, it then became its own thing. And then there's people who are very much into Deep Space Nine or even the new Star Treks, you know? So
Yeah.
it's always been different things. Exactly.
Quest.
Yeah, which is a love letter
Yeah.
to Star Trek.
That's a great movie.
And so there's been a lot of different Star Treks, and this one is very different.
Yes. And it starts out where the gang is in trouble. They've gotten themselves into some deep, deep trouble, and everyone at the Federation of Planets is roll mad at Kirk. What is the Klingon who's especially mad calls him a rogue and a devil and do you remember what he specifically calls him?
Oh yeah, well he was an ambassador. He's laying it on thick.
But he was so mad.
He was
Yeah.
so mad.
He's like, no, he's a renegade, and they demand justice because apparently Kirk blew up a whole bunch of Klingons and a whole entire Enterprise in the search for Spock.
Right.
Is that correct?
That's true.
Is that right?
That's true.
He really blew up the Enterprise, really, but good. And everyone's mad. So they're in exile on Vulcan. Spock was dead.
Yep.
And is
Look, we're not
alive.
covering Star Trek 3 on this
Yeah, there's,
one.
there's,
Okay, I
a,
just
there's
wanna
a lot to
know.
unpack
Yeah.
in Star Trek 3.
But he's like retraining his brain, and he has to learn about whether or not he has feelings. What did you guys think of that scene where he's doing the little like beep bop boop boop test?
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Correct.
yeah,
Correct.
that's so good. I guess to the filmmaker in me, but the way to kind of preface the umbrella that kind of goes over all of this movie is Leonard Nimoy. Like, so Leonard Nimoy directed this.
Yay, Leonard Nimoy. Directed.
Yay, Leonard Nimoy, and it's not really too much of a surprise that Spock has the character arc in this movie.
Yeah.
But the real big thing is that Leonard Nimoy, like, in the stuff that he's directed, it's like modern, like, romantic comedy stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's not typical action. So this is very much more kind of like the stuff that he's done,
Right.
which is about people. It's about kind of very loose, modernistic, like camera work. It's very much about people and in comedic situations that are more relatable. So it's not a surprise the kind of tone shift that this movie has over some of the other ones, you know. So he also directed Star Trek 3, unless I'm wrong.
No, that's true.
And that was really more him doing a Star Trek movie, but in this one he got a lot more leeway to kind of do more of the stuff that he likes to do. And I think for the better.
Yeah.
You know?
And so do you think it was like a nice moment to have with him and his mom, where the mom's just like, well, too bad for you, you have feelings. You're going to have to feel them eventually.
She's like, have we go through this again? Like, how old are you? We've had this conversation how many times?
Yeah.
You're half human. Deal with it.
Deal with it.
Yeah, it's interesting when you talk about like what he's like as a filmmaker, because after this, the next thing he went on to do is 3 Minute a Baby, which is much more similar in tone to like Star Trek 4 than it is to Star Trek 3.
Yeah.
You know, it's very much in that light comedy, character-driven thing.
Guys, he directed 3 Men and a Baby. That's
Right.
wild,
The
isn't it?
next year, like he was prepping it while he was wearing the ears. Like,
Yeah.
come on. It's like,
Well,
it's
you
like
don't wanna
the
take
Young
those ears
Frankenstein
off
Blazing
at the end of
Saddles
the
thing
day.
when you're,
Yeah.
like, how do you do it at the same time?
So the gang has to, they all decide that they got to go back to Earth and like take their medicine and like be in trouble. But when they're on and they have to fly this like Klingon warship that they stole, and nobody is happy about it. Everybody has complaints. Everybody is like mad about like Scotty's mad at the Klingon food. And they're all mad that they have that you have to read the Klingon how-to manuals and stuff. Meanwhile, there's this probe that's zipping through space, yelling at people, and everybody it yells at gets neutralized and basically gets shut down.
Right.
But my take was, and let me see if you guys agree, did all those people die? They just got neutralized on spaceships, and we see one guy who's like not looking at the camera, and he's like gazing off into space, like, we hope that our engineer will let us stay alive. We're not sure,
Well,
but we're hopeful. Do you
So-
think they all died?
let's not be fools. I'm sure someone died.
Yes. So yes.
But
you say
but
yes.
So it basically turned off all their power.
Right.
So probably the initial people at the beginning are in a lot worse shape than the
Than they
later people on Earth.
So you don't think when it got further away, their power came back on?
There were some people that we saw their power come back on.
Okay.
Like the people at Stardock. It's like, oh, hey, well, that wasn't so
Came
bad.
back on, yeah. But there were a couple people out in space who seemed pretty stressed out.
Yeah, but it does seem that it happened because, the time travel, they arrive again at the point that they left. Like, if it was for a full week, they'd be screwed.
They'd all be dead.
Yeah, they'd all be dead.
Well, okay, what do you guys think out there? The people who were being hit by the probe and neutralized and just left
Like
to
those first
float.
couple of ships.
Those first couple of ships, like the one with the guy with the cool, like, rock star hair.
Right.
Yeah.
Are they alive? No one thinks they're alive. You think we got a handful of people who think they're alive.
I actually haven't read the book that comes after the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know at least, as pretty normal, the Klingons lost a few ships because they tried picking a fight.
Okay,
Sure.
the Klingons
Sure.
tried to fight
It
it.
didn't go well, but some people didn't make it, but most everyone, once it realized what it was doing.
Okay, perfect. So in true Star Trek fashion, most people lived.
Yes, and
A
the ones who
few
died
people
happened
died.
off screen, so we don't have to think.
And the Klingons smashed into it because they were like angry with it.
Right.
It was a good day to
Okay.
die.
Yeah.
So you're the facts guy for the rest of this. I'll have a wild
Well, it's-
stipulation and you'll have the answer.
It depends on if you consider the books to be canon or not. I'm not saying yes or no. You can make your own decision. I'm saying if you choose it, the canon of the
Well, this
books
is a
are-
movie
Well, that's a different
podcast.
panel.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
that's a different thing. So
Do they cover that in Star Trek 5? I don't think they do.
I'm not sure.
No.
I've not seen Star Trek 5. I've seen up to 4.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh,
Don't
yeah,
see it?
that's gonna be a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
I was watching this
Well,
with my
I
husband
made the
last
joke.
night.
It's like I can't believe they just went from 4 to 6 and never made a 5.
I
So
have
you
to
have
be
like I
honest.
Yeah.
have Indiana Jones. There's only been 3.
I
Got
was
it.
watching this last night with my husband for the second time I was watching it, and we were like, I was having a good time. It was
Yeah.
fine. And then he was like, you know what, we should watch 5 after this. And I was like,
Oh,
I'm good.
oh.
Yeah.
I'm good. I needed this one to be fresh.
Burn.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna
I think this
have
one
to
is
sit.
so
I'm gonna have to
fresh.
sit Dorian down.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was into it.
Not to get off subject, but I feel like 3 was the best of the odd bad movies.
I'd agree with that.
You know,
We love
like
3.
it's either 3 or 1, isn't it? Right?
We've got some real love for 3 in the audience, I'm feeling. Yeah,
It's
love-
got Christopher Lloyd
yeah.
in it. So I mean, you know,
It's got Christopher Lloyd.
it's got
in it?
Christopher
Christopher
Lloyd.
Lloyd
Yeah, he's a
in it,
Klingon.
yeah.
Oh.
He's the
He's
Klingon
really
they
good.
killed.
I mean,
Is that right?
hot
Yeah.
take. Christopher Lloyd is really talented. But
Yeah,
no, he's
he
really
was
good.
actually a really
Agree.
good. He was not.
Agree.
He was like, yeah, he was a cold SOB on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they go from Vulcan back to Earth, but in the way they find out that this probe has been like destroying everybody. And when it gets to Earth, it basically immediately vaporizes the oceans and is like really causing everyone to have a really bad day. And it's zapping into the oceans and making this sound, which I read the sound that the ship makes, though, like wow, 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 is Leonard Nimoy's voice.
Oh.
That he like went to the sound engineer and was like, all the sounds you're bringing me are not what I wanted to sound like. I wanted to sound like this.
I'll slow that down.
And the sound engineer was like, record. So you want it to sound like you going wom 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 wom. So that's what it is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, he might have been in the recording booth recording his role in Transformers the movie. So that came out in '86 as well.
Yeah.
Going
Leonard
wom,
Nimoy
wom,
was a
wom,
busy
wom,
guy
wom.
then.
He
Yeah.
is. He's everywhere we
Yeah.
want to be. So of course, the cast of the cast. What are they called?
The crew?
The crew, thank you. Can you tell I'm a theater person? The starring cast of the Enterprise are the only ones to figure out that if they're beaming the sound into the water, we should try and listen to it like it's under the water. And bippity boppity boo, it's whale song. Not only is it whale song, it's humpback whale song, but unluckily for us, there's no more humpback whales. So they immediately get the idea, what's the solution?
Time travel.
We're gonna go back
First
in
idea.
time.
First idea, best idea, right?
First idea, best idea, yeah. We go back in time to when there were whales, we get some whales, we come back to this time that we're in, we dump those whales in the ocean, and we hope they have good news for us.
Yeah. And it's like, so Kirk posts a video to Starfleet Command and it says, "We are going to attempt time warp."
Yeah.
All right, so get out the Klingon manual. Like
Yeah.
again,
Whoop, whoop, whoop. I found the page. I
Right.
found the page on time warp. I mean, time travel in this movie, it does not seem like that big of a deal at all. It's literally no big deal. They're like, oh, well, maybe we'll die and crash into the sun.
right?
Maybe we'll overshoot and end up in
Probably
the dinosaur
not.
times.
It'll be a real short movie. if we do.
Unlikely the sci-fi to magic scale.
Yeah.
There's a lot more kind of magical
I
sci-fi
think
here,
yours would
with like the
seem
probe turning everything off.
Yeah.
And then, we're going to engage time warp. There wasn't any like, can that be done?
Yeah.
You know,
Of
Even-
course it can.
Even Bones is like, really? We have to time travel? All right. You're supposed to be the voice of reason. Like, time travel? Are you crazy? But they've seen a lot of things in
Yeah.
their 5-year mission, so.
In fairness, McCoy broke time a few times on his own, so
Yeah,
he's
true.
It's
Okay.
now a shortcut
Wasn't
key.
quite
It
his
is.
head at the point.
Well, and we needed to get to 1986 because we want them to spend some time in San Francisco in 1986.
Yeah.
And guess what? They do. They make it. They survive their time travel jump, and they don't land anywhere else. They follow the sound of whales that they find from space directly to San Francisco. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're up there, and Uhura's like, I hear whales. Let's go there.
And then I also like that they're all, because Starfleet Command is in San Francisco.
Yeah, so they
and
Right.
so I like the
start
idea
somewhere,
that they're all familiar with it, and they're visiting it in the 80s,
Yeah.
and so that's cool.
I think that's cool too.
You know,
I like it.
That's just extra little spice.
I also love when we get to 1980s San Francisco, we go from being on the bridge of the Starship Enterprise to like
80s music.
The streets of San Francisco. People walking, stoplights, taxis.
Smoking everywhere.
Everyone's smoking on the streets. And they're like bewildered, but they're like all just like wandering around.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of, William Shatner's here. What do we think of Kirk? Do we love Kirk? Do we find him a little gruff? Is he a little grumpy? Do we like his love adventure? What are your feelings on Kirk?
Oh, I don't know. I think I was interested going back this. How did they balance having like 8 main characters? You have to have something for all the crew to do. So he gets the love story, which I guess is fine because it's Kirk. But the rest of the people, they always were trying to find something for them to do. I read that there was a scene actually with Sulu they shot. He was going to meet a kid on the street who saw him and ran up to him and started speaking to him. I think it was speaking in Chinese. And they were going to have a little conversation, and the kid was going to run away, and they're going to be like, oh, who was that kid? And he's like, oh, that was my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. Like, they figured it just by talking, they figured it out. Because, oh, you look like me. It's like, oh, yeah, there's a reason. But apparently, the kid they cast was terrible, and they couldn't use any of the footage. Like, he just couldn't do any of the stuff. So, yeah, once again, as poor as George Takei gets a big moment, and then they cut it out.
Yeah.
He really does nothing except find a helicopter.
I think that's what it was. Because he makes a big thing, like, hey, my family's from here, setting up a future plot point, and then, just gets to fly a helicopter, and that's it.
Yeah,
I avoided the Kirk question.
These ensemble movies, it's so tough for them to find everything. I feel like the movies now, or basically from like Star Trek 6, got it right.
Yeah.
Of giving everyone kind of a piece of the puzzle, something to do.
Yeah, at least if they don't have an arc, then at least they have like an interesting bit of business they need to do.
But yeah, it took them a while to kind of learn. I felt to learn that lesson of giving everyone something to do on
Yeah.
these.
Yeah.
Because they have their little tasks. So
Yeah.
Sulu's got to go find a helicopter.
Because like originally with the
Scotty and
TV show,
Bones.
it's like you've got the three main leads, and
Right.
everyone's are like
Doing whatever.
assistants. They're like employees.
Right.
You know?
The Scotty and Bones have to go find something that can turn the inside of the Cleon vessel into a whale habitat, essentially. So their job is to basically invent transparent aluminum.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They go, which is great. The two of them together are great.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So they really bend the rules a lot. They go to a factory that is manufacturing plexiglass, and they're like, "How
Stuart
big would it
Pankin
need
is
to
there
be?"
from Not Necessarily the News.
Who is there?
Stuart Pankin. That's the guy who's running the.
Oh, he's the yeah.
Yeah, he's a comedian. He was a big guy in the '80s. He had a show from Not Necessarily the News. I think he was the voice of the dinosaur from Dinosaurs. What was the name of the main?
The
Am I
dinosaur
too old
from
for the room?
Dinosaurs.
the main dinosaur in Dinosaurs.
And so they basically have to invent transparent aluminum for him.
Yeah.
But my favorite part of that whole thing is when Scotty is like trying to deal with the computer, and at first he's just talking to it. Computer.
Like I feel that's even more like relevant now. It's like, oh yeah, I can understand how you'd make that mistake.
And then he talks into the into the
Yeah.
mouse. Computer.
Notice though?
Macintosh.
He cracks the old knuckles.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
He's got like 200 words a minute.
Right. I think that was really
At first
cool.
he's
Why
like
would he have those
concept
skills?
hacking.
Yeah.
At first he's like my dad, like A, B, but then he's flying, and he's just like beep bop
Yeah.
boop beep bop boop 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 boop. So they're playing real fast and loose with the Prime Directive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watching this, like having him do that, where you get the grandfather paradox, the Terminator thing of like who created the thing. But at the same time, Kirk's doing that across town too. Like he's selling back the glasses that Bones is going to buy from that same store and give to him. So like, where did they come from? You know, it's the grandfather paradox.
Yeah, and
Is
he
that
gets
grandfather?
$100.
Yeah.
He gets $100,
Yeah,
and
is
he's
that a
like,
lot?
"Is that a lot?" And the guy's like, "Sure."
And then he goes and gives money to everybody else. He gives everybody $20.
Yeah.
Right? And from then on, money problem solved.
Money
Like, it's like, but
Except for when he's out to dinner. When he's out to dinner with his lady Dr. Love,
Yeah.
The waiter comes and says the most 80s phrase ever: "Who gets the bad news?" and she's like, "Don't tell me they don't use money in the 23rd century." And he's like, "Well, they don't. I got $20."
So do you see when she returned him to the park, he kept the leftovers.
He did. And he's holding
Scotty was there. Like he
He's
was still
holding
working.
them.
He needed food.
It's a pizza.
Yeah.
And he's holding it upright. Just proving that he does not understand modern pizza. Or gravity. Yeah. He's too advanced almost to really understand these everyday things like how to hold a pizza. We haven't even met her yet. So they find that these two humpback whales are in captivity in an aquarium nearby, and that's where he meets the Lady Love, who is the whale doctor.
Dr. Lady Love.
Dr. Science.
Dr.
Dr.
Love.
Scientist Lady Love.
And I
She
think they
is in
filmed this
love with these
at
whales.
I think they filmed this at Monterey Bay.
Monterey Bay Aquarium,
Yeah.
yes they did. And it's kind of sad because they've got these two humpback whales in like the teeny tiniest little cage. What's a water cage? A tank, thank
Yeah.
you. A water tank.
And they've
is
got
the
enough
trivia
room to
game
kind of
happening
turn
right now?
around.
Yeah. What's that?
Is the trivia game happening right now?
It is.
Uh-huh.
You
And
win.
tank?
It's called the
Like,
tank.
okay.
So they're like, okay, these are the whales. We learned that the whales are kind of in jeopardy because the aquarium can't afford to keep them. So they're gonna dump them into the wild. And Kirk is like,
In
this
like
is
a
perfect.
jumbo jet? Didn't they say they're
in
gonna put
in a plane, in a special 747. So it can be done. Why didn't they just hijack that plane?
Wait, so does the plane like slow down and stop in the water, or does it like hit
Dump
eject?
them?
Yeah.
It's like the firefighting planes.
Have they
get
have
above
they
it and
created
then
like a
just-
slide that they're gonna like?
Have you not seen Operation Dumbo Drop? Because they covered all of this in there.
I love the idea of the
What the
slide.
mutual groan? You can tell that they're a podcasting team.
I love the idea of the slide though. That these
Yeah.
they're gonna deploy one of those like inflatable things that comes out in a water landing, and these two whales are just gonna slide out. But Dr. Science Lady Love is really concerned that they're gonna get whaled. Harpoon. Thank you. You win the other trivia.
Yeah,
If you're
whales.
whaling,
They're gonna
They'd
get
be
They
whaled.
have
They'd be
whaled.
whaled by whalers.
Yes.
the past tense
The
of whaling
whales.
would be whaled. So
Man, the English language sometimes.
yeah, that's fine.
Why are there whalers with
Uh huh.
Right.
Well, yeah, and it was.
They heard-
I'm-
they
must
heard-
have
they
been
heard
so
about it.
excited. Well, if
Like,
there's
two whales in captivity. Let's just moor off of the coast of California and
yeah,
wait.
and wait, but
Yeah.
they take them up to Alaska. So they're like these two guys in Alaska are just like, there's gonna be 2 more humpback whales, everyone. We ride at dawn.
So apparently they're speaking Finnish. So Finland is the bad guy in this movie.
Wow, Finland,
Finland. I knew they'd give us trouble.
country where I quite want to.
But it's 1986, and apparently there's still whaling happening in 1986.
Actually, yeah.
I think they're still whaling.
Yeah, I think there's still whaling happening now. There's still whaling happening now. There's some of the.
Oh, just Finland.
Just Finland. Oh,
Yeah.
Finland. Get
If you go
it
east from
together.
California, you'll find a lot of the countries over on the other side of those waters tend
Are
to
still whaling it up.
still whaling it up,
Oh, that's
sharking
really
it up,
a bummer.
dolphining
Yeah.
it up. Yeah.
Oh. Well, I mean, I feel like there's a lot more dolphins than humpback whales.
Yeah.
Not if they have anything to say about it.
Okay. All right. Well, let's not. I feel like we've taken a week.
Ugh. Boy, things got dark. Thanks, Finland.
So, but they need all the pieces of this puzzle to come together. They need Scotty and Bones to get the aluminum invented, manufactured,
And I love that. It's
and
like,
delivered to them.
wait, aren't we changing the timeline?
Yeah.
What if this was the guy who invented it? Yeah. Well, he is now.
What's that?
Scotty said basically to Dr. McCoy, how do we know he didn't invent it?
Yeah, how do we know?
Well, yeah, he
just
should have
did.
said, well, he is now.
He's the guy who invented it now.
This is what gets a temporal Cold War. See, stuff like this.
Stuff like this. But speaking of timelines, he invents it. They get over that shock. They manufacture it and deliver it within a day.
Yeah.
Within 1 day. I mean, now that's a good company. Yeah. They knew what they were doing.
Yeah. Ah, the good old days.
The plexiglass.
When
coatings
America
were on
was
top
great.
of everything.
Right. And I gotta say, for being the 80s, which now when
Now
people
did-
go back, things
right.
are pretty rough. Everyone is super nice to them.
Yeah.
Like even the soldiers who are like, hey, there's that guy, a Russian spy's on there. Tackle him. Like, you have guns. Like, no one shoots at Chekhov. Like, everybody they meet is just super accommodating and gives them so much leeway of just
Sir,
like,
I'm so
well,
sorry.
clearly
We're
these
gonna have to
middle-aged
tackle
dudes
you."
are up to something, but just kick them out.
Just kick them out.
Spock would have been arrested if he dived into that pool.
Oh yeah,
Swim
Spock
around.
does dive in and like mind meld with the whales in like what is probably the sexiest scene in this. Anyone else?
You can
Does
see
anyone
what
else?
Vulcan underwear looks like.
I'm into it. It's a one-piece number, and I think I'm all for it. So what Uhura and Chekhov were doing was trying to find nuclear vessels, which is the funnest thing to say. They got to find the nuclear vessels in order to absorb enough nuclear cast-off energy to recrystallize the dilithium.
Right.
on
They've run
the
out. Their
gunship.
bird of prey's run out of power.
Yeah.
It has run out of power, and they need the nuclear power. But they just are going to siphon it off.
Yeah.
So that's what they're doing. So that's their task. Unfortunately, they run into a spot of bother as Chekhov can't get beamed up in time, and so he
Leads them on a merry chase.
he does. Well, first he gets interrogated, which like when we talk about the 80s movies, we talk about them holding up a lot. So far, this movie's holding up pretty okay.
Yeah.
Don't we think? There's one, he uses the R word though.
Yes, he does
in
use
the
the R word,
interrogation. That made me like jump back and cringe.
Yeah.
But in one word per whole 80s movie is a win.
True.
Yeah.
It's
Very
a win.
true.
But they're interrogating him, and he's just like, I'm Pavel, I'm from the Federation, I'm here to inspect your vessel, and then he runs out the door. He runs out the door and trips and falls and hits his head.
Really hard.
Yeah.
Really hard. Like, they think he's gonna die. And so, right at the end, we have to go on a little rescue mission.
Yeah.
Well, it's 80s movies, so there has to be a big medical scene,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, in time travel movies, like the fun is like the juxtaposition of like what their technology is and what our technology is, and so the whole like medical doctor scene is just full of so much fun.
Yeah.
Of like Bones, it's like,
right.
what is this? The Dark Ages?
Yeah.
What do you need?
And
You
there's
know.
a lady who's like, he gave me a pill and I grew a new kidney. And she's
And-
just running through the halls. He gave
Yeah.
me a pill.
I
and
also
grew
love
a
the
new
fact that apparently
kidney."
McCoy just carries that on him.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they've been away from the Federation, away from replicators or whatever they had, in that project thing. He's just like, no, I got that.
Well, that's like
he
how
just
I
has a
have
medical
Advil in my
case.
purse right now.
Yeah.
You
No
just
medical
always have it.
tricorder. He's
Yeah.
just like, just a couple chemicals, and there you go. New
Yeah,
kidney.
there you go.
He's a miracle worker.
He is, but I think he should have stayed and cured a bunch more people.
Yeah.
Don't you guys think?
Well, then he's affecting.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
See?
That would have affected the timeline more.
Yeah.
More than saving that lady.
But
who
how do
got
we
a
know
new
that guy
kidney.
didn't grow his own liver?
Yeah. But I did like the part where they're locking the other doctors away. So they just slam their way into this secure wing where this like Russian enemy of the United States that was found on a nuclear vessel is just being held, just casually being held for surgery. And Bones is all mad and grumpy, and he's like, "Yeah, you're gonna cut into his brain? Get out of here, you!"
And we as an audience, we want Bones to denigrate our modern science.
We do. We want so badly to believe it's gonna get better someday. We want to look back and say it's so cute. Well, what do you guys think of Kirk in that moment where he's just like, I know, this guy's crazy. Let's get you out of here. Let's get you in this room and lock you in.
The power of his command, like those
He
people,
is.
he just sort of like the power of charisma just pushes them out the door.
Yeah, he's like, I'm as pissed as you guys. Look,
who's that guy?
yeah, who is that guy? Keep moving over there. All right.
Beep, bop, boop, we locked you in. And he puts the little, like, what would you call that?
The medical magical headband.
The magical medical headband on his head and saves Chekhov. And then we got to make it back to the ship in time because we got to save these whales, you guys. We got to save them. They get stolen away from her in the dead of night. But why? So here's what I thought, though. Maybe
and she slaps her employer.
Yeah.
She does.
That's why she can't return to the past.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's circle back, though. Let's talk about the love story a little bit. Because, I mean, calling it a love story is really being, like, overly generous to it. It's like a single man and a single woman.
It's a like story.
It's a like story. It's really friendship, but I'm trying so hard to, like, project love onto it. I'm shipping them for sure. Because they have this, she drives a truck, you guys.
Yeah.
That's how you know she's not like
with a
other
bumper
girls.
sticker that says, I heart whales.
Yeah. That's how you know that she's not...
she's not like the other girls.
I felt
she's
for a
not
girl
an
like
ordinary girl. You love her?
No, continue.
Well, what did you say?
Nothing?
Are you looking for a girl with a truck and a bumper sticker that says I heart whales?
No, I had a girl with a truck.
That had a bumper sticker that said I heart whales?
Is this the beginning?
Let's move on.
Okay. Just trying to get to know you better, Nathan. We've been podcasting together for 5 years.
We're about to launch into a country song, so just veer away. Back to Wales.
They go out to dinner. They have Italian together. She tells him sort of the whole story, except she won't give up their radio frequency, which turns out to just be 401 megahertz.
Yeah.
It's not like a secret code or something. Like, they could have stumbled onto that with enough trying, I feel like. What did you guys think about their sort of romance?
It's nice. It's, it's not forced.
Yes.
Because Kirk has to stay on mission. She thinks he's a weirdo.
He is a weirdo.
Yeah, and it's... Yeah, I think they threaded that needle just right, and I think if it would have been pushed any further, it would have been weird.
Yeah.
And she doesn't go head over heels for him.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, this guy.
And they don't really smooch.
No.
Yeah.
They have one little quick
peck on the cheek.
I can't say the word.
Quick peck.
Quick peck.
Quick peck.
Quick peck.
Quick peck on the cheek.
Quick peck on the cheek. But they don't have like a big smooch session or anything.
Right.
And she won't even give him her phone number at the end. Do they have phone numbers in the 23rd century? But he's like, give me your phone number, chickie baby. And she's like, how about I find you?
Don't call me.
Yeah.
Don't call me, I'll call you. But I thought it added a nice little dimension to them having someone from the outside come in. What did you guys think of the part where she boards the Starship Enterprise? And it's essentially like, I'm coming with you.
This is why it's good when you have Scotty on the transporter control, because there's Kirk being away and she jumps in. Now, anyone will know that that is a recipe for disaster. You're going to end up with Brundlefly. But Scotty, being good at his job, goes, oh, now there's two, and just separates the beam and brings them both in and does it. But, that could have been ended in disaster. But once again, then we get back to temporal causality, because now she has been removed from the timeline and moved into the future. So apparently that's okay.
Apparently that's okay, and whatever she's going to bring to the future is no one. They're so
she was
mad
going to have
at
zero
Kirk.
impact in 1987.
Well, I think a lot of time travel movies from the 80s were pretty loosey-goosey, and it was about what felt good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and then later, as enough of those stories were told, then it was more about the consequences of it as things got, you know,
Where's
a
the
little
TVA
darker.
when you need
and-
'em?
yeah, exactly.
There is a running bit throughout the movie which I loved, which is that people in 1986 apparently swear every other word, and that's how you get people to listen to you. So what does he call them, Nathan?
Oh, colorful metaphors.
Colorful metaphors. So Spock does say to the science doctor lady at some point, "They are not the hell your whales," and it's one of my favorite bits. One of my favorite running bits through the movie is how quickly Kirk's like, "Well, double dumbass to you," and Spock's like, "I've noticed you're swearing at people a lot.
Yeah. Are you?
I would like
Are
to
you
also
okay?
swear." Did you have any favorite moments, favorite bits, favorite things before we get to the end?
Oh, I think.
Yeah,
There's probably the most famous scene from this movie. I think.
Which one?
On the bus, right?
Yeah.
Right. So that's one of the most famous things, and I think it's amazing because that, if for those of you who don't know, that's Kirk Thatcher, who is a producer on this movie, and also is a huge part of the Henson Company. He is a Muppeteer. He is a performer. He is still around, and he would be happy to talk to you about anything other than this, because he has done so much work in his life, and every time he goes, "You're the guy on the bus." But not only was he that and did that all himself, he wrote the music and performed it. So the song you're hearing on his thing is his band that he did. And then he ended up reprising that role in Star Trek Picard. When they travel back in time, he's the same guy, like later on in his life, and then immediately has changed his life because of Spock. Like you find out that they're like, "Hey," it's like, "Oh no, it's fine." Like he's like now his learned manners.
Aww.
Yeah, and also he shows up in Spider-Man: Homecoming. He's the same guy. He's on the streets of New York when the guy goes, "Hey, Spider-Man, do a flip." That Kirk Thatcher is in costume as that guy standing next to him, going, "Yeah." He's an amazing guy. He's on the con circuit. If you ever get a chance to talk to him, he's great.
Wow, that was some really
Right?
like deep hardcore knowledge,
Yeah,
Kyle.
that. And when we talk about Brock Peters, because I got a bunch of stuff about him too.
Who's Brock Peters?
I'll tell you, but,
Yeah.
Nathan wants to talk
Oh,
about his
okay.
favorite thing. So the bus scene, obviously.
The bus scene. All right.
For me, it's very quick, but I love Italian. And
I
so
love
do you.
Italian.
Yeah.
And so do you.
Because it just seems so natural. This movie gets so much from the charm of the actors
Yeah.
that are in this, and they just kind of let them ride with it. And I just love how great that comedic moment is between Spock and Kirk. Yeah.
I just wanted to show this picture before I forgot to show it. Oh, speaking
Oh,
of
yes.
Spock and Kirk.
Yeah.
So that's your favorite moment?
Yeah.
You love it? Okay, so tell us about Brock Peters.
So Brock Peters is in the original after they have the probe meets the ship and they cut back to Star Trek Command. There's the president, which the president's always super ineffective in every Star Trek thing. He's just a guy.
In
But then
fact,
next to him,
with the president, the Spock's dad has to be like, maybe we should warn people not to come to
it's like,
Earth.
oh right, yeah, right.
We should do that.
Yeah.
But I'm the president of Earth. I don't care
Well,
about
he's
that.
not the president of Earth.
Of everything
He's the
else.
president on Earth.
Oh, right.
So Brock Peters is the guy who plays the admiral that's with them.
Yeah, Admiral
So,
Cartwright.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right, thank you. Handsome black dude, but like not only is he in this the whole thing and makes it, like he makes it to the end, but he comes back to Star Trek because he's Sisko's dad. He's Captain Sisko. He comes back as and he runs the restaurant stuff too. Plus, he also played Darth Vader because when they did the radio drama series, which was partially
That's right.
he was Darth Vader, and he's a really good Darth Vader. So if you get a chance to listen to the Star Wars, I think it's called Star Wars the audio drama. They took the original like New Hope and they basically expanded it out to like, I don't know, 8 or 9 hours. And so every episode you could find out where Leia was doing before she got on the TNG-4 and all that stuff. But he is Darth Vader through the whole thing, and it's great. Brock Peters was amazing, dude.
Excellent. More fun
Right?
facts from Kyle Olson. Yeah.
And you also know the other cameo in that scene. Anybody else know the other cameo in that scene? The lieutenant who's on the screen, the woman.
with the hair, with the great hair.
No. There you go. Someone knows. Jane Weedland from the Go-Go's is an ensign. She's like she's got a wild like mane of hair, and she's like in the background, just like reporting in on like we're also having problems with whales.
Did she just love Star Trek?
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to talk just a little bit about the music in this movie because it's so fun when the parts when like Chekhov is escaping and Chekhov is like running away and like Chekhov is falling to his possible death. It's almost like the Benny Hill thing. It's like. What do you think as a filmmaker of that music selection?
Well, that's the interest. So obviously, this was because it's set in the '80s that they could do something a little more contemporary, a little more like fun, and just going with the tone shift of this movie.
Yeah.
And then there's also just so much modern music in there too. I feel like it's again, it's not to circle back to it, but it's again Leonard Nimoy trying to make it a different type of Star Trek movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I thought it was very fun, very playful, and it made it less dire. Like it's you can imagine like what is like
like
just with musical choice
stuff.
of how dark that moment could have been of Chekhov running, being in an aircraft carrier running, and then guys with guns chasing after them.
Right.
And I love how that was all.
Godfather with that.
Yeah.
Slow mo of him falling off the side.
Yeah, and then the casting is so great because like those guys probably were actual military people, just the way of how they spoke, all the and just how it all worked, like it was just super realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet light and fun at the same time.
Yeah.
I thought this movie was a good movie. There's one other line that I wrote down where she comes on board to the Enterprise and she's like, "You have to let me stay. I am a whale scientist." Period. End of sentence. And then she goes on to make the point that no one in the 23rd century is going to know what to do with these whales that they're suddenly going to plop down onto the planet Earth.
I mean, there's still other whales on Earth at
but
this
there's no
point.
humpback whales.
Yeah.
So now she's an expert on maybe 5 animals?
3. There's going to be 3.
Well, I don't know how many calves.
How many
Is it
babies
just
you
one?
can have?
I don't
I don't
know about
know.
humpback whales. I don't know if it's multiple ones. I was trying to
Up
be
to
generous
5?
with- Maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, she's the expert on those ones
Yep.
specifically.
Only
I guess.
those.
She could do the job as a historian really easily.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
no, back to the whales.
Back to the whales. So essentially, they land right in front of the whaling ship that's in mid harpoon.
That's awesome. What a great
It's
shot
mid
that is.
harpoon, and then they like oop boop uncloak, ha ha ha. We're from space. Sorry, Prime Directive. And they scoop up the whales, zip zap zop themselves back to the 23rd century.
Wait, before we zip zap zop, I want to ask Nathan something though too.
Okay.
How do you feel about models? Because this is still the time that every ship you see was a physical ship that they built.
Right.
So now we're into the full CG stuff too. But how do you feel about looking back now, seeing the models?
Well, I certainly enjoy it. It's the compositing that throws me off now. Like the lines of
But
like
their
the
mat work
separation.
was strong.
Yeah.
Like I'm sorry, I'm already disrupting the answer to the question I asked. But they did for the when adding on to Monterey Bay, thing. I was like, it took a second. I'm like, oh right, like everything from the left screen doesn't exist.
Yeah,
that was somebody just drew that. In.
Yeah, the matte painting on Vulcan was a little rough.
Yeah.
That one was a little colorful and
Yeah.
and fanciful,
Yeah.
but
I never usually notice that stuff, and I said, I think that's
Oh.
a matte painting.
yeah,
And I never usually know. I'm
yeah,
usually
it looks
so
like
in
the
it.
Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
It does. It really does.
Yeah, I mean, I really love the original the physical models,
Yeah.
but for me now it's how it's integrated the compositing that usually makes it feel dated.
Okay.
You know, like when it's like I don't know if you like watch some of the original Star Wars, but you can like some of the TIE fighters and the asteroid sequence, you can actually see like the compositing like squares around them sometimes, and when the bird of prey was going towards the sun, you can actually kind of see a little of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that usually gives it off. Like honestly, like I hate to say it, but like the CG stuff is really good now, but I do love the models.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And the
there's
models
something
of the
about
whales are
it
good.
really being there.
Yeah.
So they do save the whales. Here's what I don't understand though. The whales flip-flop out of the boat. They swim around. At first they're not singing and Shatner's like, why? Why won't they sing? Why? Why?
They're so
freaked
jet
out
lagged
right
that
now.
yeah.
They're like, really, what the hell is my day? I've been on a plane twice. And finally they do start singing. And apparently they tell the probe,
F
we're
off.
fine.
Yeah. No, seriously, we're
Get out
fine.
of
What
here.
is your deal?
What is the problem here? Please stop burning our planet. And then the probe just goes, oh,
Right.
my bad. I'm so sorry. It sucks
Well-
back into itself and flies away.
I was thinking about it, it's like what kind of probe would like this like there's got to be liquid water on other planets. What kind of probe would like destroy the planet if it didn't get an answer?
Right.
And it's obvious that they needed someone to sign an invoice. It's like a creditor.
Yep.
I'm not leaving this planet.
I'm not leaving until someone responds.
Yes. I did think the end was a little bit silly, but I liked it. So how does this movie, on a scale of 1 to 10, is how we rate our movies at the close of the podcast. So on a scale of 1 whale to 10 whales, 10 whales being what you hope for, that they're repopulating.
Right. 10 is like a perfect movie.
Mwah. 10
Right.
is the perfect amount of whales. How do you rate Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home?
I'm gonna rate it pretty high. I'm gonna give it an 8.5.
8.5.
Wow.
Yeah.
Half a whale?
Half a whale.
What? A baby whale.
It's a baby
A
whale.
calf.
Grace's
It's based
baby.
on
A
weight.
whale and a calf.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I just feel like, I mean, it is more fantasy than sci-fi,
Okay.
but it's just so charming. And it's especially charming if you compare it to seeing all the other Star Treks, which I really enjoy, but getting them to kind of be in a different type of story, a different type of movie. It's refreshing and it's a lot of fun. So
Excellent.
yeah.
What about you, Kyle?
Well, I rate a lot of Star Trek on does someone punch a god? But no. So I think I
That's
really,
a
I really
yes/no
enjoyed it.
scale.
Yeah, right. So I really enjoyed it, and I was kind of trepidatious going in, like I remember this when I was
Yeah.
younger. It's not something I go back to on a regular basis, but I ended up finding myself really charmed by it because everybody seems to be having a good time, and like you say, because they found a way to do time travel and lower the stakes. So it's not that race against time thing. It's just like, oh no, we're gonna go back the moment we left. Well, we can just screw around and have pizza, go swimming.
Yeah.
It's great.
Let's have a pizza.
Right, so they found a way to start making fun. So I'm going to go with 7 fully intact and happy whales.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go a half whale too because I
Just
really,
a half whale?
What's that?
Just a half whale?
No, not just a half whale. But there will be a half whale involved.
Okay.
I thought this was a fun movie and I enjoyed it and I enjoyed watching it, but there are some really slow parts
Yeah.
and like by and large it's boring. Like it took me 2 times to watching it because I kept like finding other things to do, like laundry and dishes. And be like, well, I could finish this, but those dishes are calling to me. So, but I still thought it was fun, and all the parts where you're really like invested, and like everything with Shatner is fun, everything with Nimoy is great. So I give it 6 1/2 whales.
Okay.
6 1/2 whales. What do you guys think? Shout out your score.
Just thinking of
8,
certain
9,
numbers.
8, 9.
8? Okay, a lot of 8s.
Perfect.
Okay.
7. All right, I
7
will
to
let you
8s.
know.
Wait, are
that
there any
the-
like 2s? Anybody was like, whales, no.
Boo whales.
No,
They're
boo
in the wrong
whales.
place if they are.
Okay, all right.
the-
Everybody is pro whale in this room.
IMDb gives it 7.3 out of 10, so it gets 0.3 whales.
Okay.
7.3 whales. Okay, so we're running out of time, but I do have some like little trivia prizes for you guys, and so you two have to help me. You have to watch to see who raises their hand
Oh, geez,
first.
that doesn't work.
And again, we have from me neighborhood comedy theater stuff. from Kyle, Full-Time Dice Hour and Swashbuckling Adventure, Swashbuckling Ladies Debate Society stickers, and from Nathan, nothing.
I can kiss each of them.
Please,
Right.
please kiss it gently.
There
All
we
right,
go.
excellent. All right.
There we
So
go.
this movie, I'll do the easy one first because we actually gave away one of the answers. Name another 80s movie directed by Leonard Nimoy.
There was more than I gave one.
Yes.
There was others.
3 Men and a Baby.
There you go.
Possibly the best one that he did. Thank you. Here's your prize.
Sure.
And our next one is this movie features the actual only instance of what famous phrase
From Star Trek.
from Star Trek? That's exactly right. Beam me up, Scotty. Come get your prize. Yay! Round of applause for our audience member and our awesome costume guest.
Oh, it's Black Widow too.
Nathan, where can people find you and support your filmmaking endeavors?
Yeah, so Squishy Studios is my production company where we make very serious movies at Squishy
Very
Studios.
serious.
But yeah, we do a lot of comedies, including we did a web series called Voyage Trekkers about the worst starship crew in the galaxy.
Yay, boys, Tucker.
But yeah, squishystudios.com.
And Kyle, where can people find Swashbuckling Ladies Debate Society and all the other fun stuff you do?
It is available on all podcatchers of choice, only the best podcatchers of choice. Your favorite, we're there. And we also are doing live shows of Swashbuckling. So if you're like audio drama, great, but can I see the actors' faces? Yes, you can. At the Neighborhood Comedy Theater, once a month, we are doing it. I don't know when the next one is because we haven't planned it yet.
Soon.
But soon.
Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us for this. Please download the podcast. And we always end the podcast by saying to keep the most excellent 80s movies podcast motto in mind, be excellent to each other and party on, dudes. My finger is stuck.